So I've got something pretty different for you this week. I'm making some gifts leading up to Christmas and I wanted to share with you. These are a little bit different from what I usually do. I'm Alana, welcome to my crafting channel at Upcycling NZ. I purchased some rough opal online. This is Australian opal from Coober Pedy and Lightning Ridge. And it came like this. It was not cheap. This was $250 with postage and packaging. So you can imagine what really high quality opal costs. So really for that price what I'm getting is the offcuts or the reject pile from a cutter. So these pieces still have a bit of sand and a bit of discoloration from the ground where it came from. Other pieces are chips that are already clean and colourful. My intention is to clean up all of this opal and try and get as much colour to show as possible. Then I'll be putting all of these into little glass jars for gifting to my loved ones. You can see that some of them have little flashes of colour, some not so much. So I've never tried this before. I've borrowed a Dremel to achieve this and I'm just assessing each piece to see if there is any colour in it. So most of these pieces are white opal and there's a few crystal opal pieces in there. The crystal's a little bit clearer and more transparent. So I'm obsessed with the gold mining and opal mining programs on YouTube. It's such a hard job and it's always easier to watch than to actually do it yourself. I'm also obsessed with opal cutting videos and I watch a lot of them on YouTube. Australian opal is very expensive and the black opal from Australia holds the title of the most expensive opal in the world. So of course I don't have any of that in this lot. So a lot of what I have here is potch and that is opal that hasn't got colour to it. It still took millions of years to form when silica rich water fell into the cracks in the ground and over millions of years solidified into these beautiful stones. Sometimes they put black potch on the back of stones and the colour will pop about 3 or 4 times what it was initially. I think it's absolutely mesmerising and I'm hoping that the people that I gift these to will think the same. Okay, so let's give this a crack, shall we? I'm interested to see how hard this is. I've got a diamond head drill bit on the Dremel that I'm using. And this is the one I've seen in videos that they use for carving. And that's when cutters are creating a more freeform, natural looking stone. Alright, let's start with this piece. And I can see that the top there is hiding all of the colour directly underneath it. So I'm going to just very gently see how hard it is to remove that crust. And immediately I'm finding that it's not actually as hard to hold my piece while I'm carving as I thought it would be. I'm keeping both the Dremel and my piece of opal wet because I've heard that the dust powder created from this can be very bad for your health. And I'm not surprised by that because this opal feels like glass. That's what it reminds me of the most. So I don't know if you can see very well, but I am beginning to expose all of that colour. However, it's not super bright and it's the brightness of the colour that adds value to every piece that you create. So I'm going to be happy just removing all of the crust off each of these stones and just trying to find that colour. It's actually really exciting trying to find the colour. I can see why people get addicted to opal. Alright, let's speed this up and see what I get from the end of this piece. Alright, I've ended up with some pastel-y colours. The opal is razor thin, but I feel like I didn't lose any opal. This next piece is also razor thin. However, I feel like there might be more colour on the other side of this opal. I'm only learning, so let's open it up and have a wee look. Because you can see from that little chip there that there is a lot of colour on that side. So normally Opal cutters leave the potch on the back of their stones, but I was right, there was more colour on the front of this stone. However, it's probably going to break because it had that hole in the middle. I just had to get that last of the sand off, and it's created a much bigger hole, and it did end up breaking, but that's okay. I'm not making gemstones from these. So a lot of my pieces ended up not having a hell of a lot of colour on the face of them. A lot of them showed more colour from the sides, so that means that they're not facing. And that's the gamble with rough opal, I guess. What if you carved it and it was actually brilliant with colour? You'd be doubling your money, I'd imagine. This piece here was really disappointing. It's really just white potch on the face of it, but when you turn it on its side, it had some brilliant colour flashing in there. So this is what I've ended up with on the left. I was able to expose more colour on all of these stones. There's little flashes of red here and there, but not a lot. Red is the most expensive colour when it comes to opal. And the ones on the right are really just potch, or the colour is just so subdued you can hardly see it. Okay, so I'm going to feed all of these into my little glass jars and mix them up so that both of my little jars are even. And I'll be giving one of these away as a birthday present and the other one as a Christmas present. These came in water like this in the mail, so I'll store them like this. So I've just added cold boiled water to these. Then with the little corks I'm going to attach them in with super glue or elephant glue so that the water doesn't leak out. I think these are the best way for you to really have a good look at the opal, and I love it in its rough state. So for the one I'm doing for a birthday present, I found this little container. I put some white tissue paper in it and I've laid it in there to present it as a gift. And I'm taking some blue masking tape and I'll just wrap that around to keep it closed. And then at the end I'm going to create a little tab so it can be opened easily to have a look at the opal inside. I've created a little label to explain where this opal's from, and I'll use a similar paper to create the little tab on the side so it's obvious where you open this from. I'm just using PVA glue to attach the label and the tab. So when I've completed all of that, I'm going to give you some close-ups of that opal. I'm trying to show you what I can see under artificial light. However, this is not really sparkling the way that I'm seeing it, so I'm trying the different settings on my light overhead, but actually the best light I was able to view it in was sunlight, so I took it outside and it really popped. This here was the best light I was able to achieve for you. Here's an even closer close-up, and I've left that little bit of an air pocket in there so that everything can move around freely and you can get a look at all angles from every piece. But I also want to show you some of the other qualities that opal has, mainly because I'm having a great time playing with this. But I've turned the light off, and this is a black light. I have a black light torch, and I'm just going to shine that on the opal and watch what happens when I turn it off. See, the glow fades away. Try that again. The longer I left it on for and the closer I put it, the longer it glowed for. Isn't that amazing? Alright, so that's my first project, and I've already gifted this to the person that was to receive it, and I think it went down really well. I also included the business card from the supplier that I purchased this from. On to the next project, and I had two of these advent calendars that I purchased from a dollar shop. I got one each for my niece and nephew, and I filled them up with handmade gifts and these little party poppers in place of sweets. I didn't want to fill them up on sweets. So in the second box I've got a little jar I made up with some little pearl beads It's just a cute thing to put in there. And then I've got a few faux gems in a little gift bag for the third box. I have a little air dry clay heart that I've done a design in paint on the front. Another party popper. My nephew's is the same, except he's got a blue turquoise design on his little heart and a different kind of bead. So there's a little bit of pocket money in that one, and I've got some eggs made of foam, and I painted those. And then I've got choose a present, because some of the presents weren't going to fit in those little boxes. It was actually really hard to find tiny stuff. So I'll wrap up these other little prezzies, and they get to choose one whenever one of those pop up inside the box. My niece and nephew are not little kids anymore, so this might be the last chance to do something like this. The kids love nature, so I've got some more of the foam eggs. I'm sure they're going to have great fun making little nests for those to go in. To get the little speckles on them, I just got a dry paintbrush with a little bit of the paint on and just flicked it to get that look. Here's a gorgeous way to use those little flat glass gems you can buy. I've put little pictures behind them and decoupaged them on, and then finished them with a bit of silver paint. I'll put another choose a present in, and in the box in the centre, which is a little bit bigger, I've put one of my handmade little cork miniature birdhouses. It's got a pine cone roof, there's a bit of faux foliage under that, and some real lichen at the bottom. And I've hung that on twine so that it can be hung from a tree or the Christmas tree. There's a little bit of nail polish in this box for my niece. And the next box has got some letters that I decoupaged. These were children's toy letters, and they're on magnets. And I decoupaged them with some vintage papers. And I can spell out the word loving with these ones. I have some more pocket money, but more this time, building up to Christmas. Then I have some little toy blocks which I painted and put transfers on. These kids are a bit too old for toy blocks now, so that's more of a one-of-a-kind vintage block. Got some more of those faux eggs. They are so cute. I'll put in the last choose a present party popper, and in the very last box there I've got some more of those glass gems, and this time I've put music paper in behind them and I've coloured them a little bit. I'm sure both of these kids have a treasure box somewhere where they put their special little things, so I'm hoping some of these things might make the treasure box. So I'll go ahead and I'll finish my nephew's box, and things are very similar except tailored more to what he likes. The alphabet letters that I have in my nephew's box spell out the word smart, because he is very smart. So before you rush out and buy one of these advent calendars, I do have to say that it was very hard to fill all of these little boxes. There's 25 of them, but I wanted something that they will remember, and being that they're going to look at this once a day for the next 25 days, I'm pretty sure they'll remember. So the last thing to do is to put the present packages together, and I'm just going to make a little card to go on the top of the package on each, so each child knows which package of presents is theirs. And for that I'm just using cereal boxes and some little Christmas themed pictures that I had. I'll add a little message to each card, and then I can enclose them in the packages. My niece and nephew have these already, and as of today they will be up to day 7. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. I would have absolutely loved something like this when I was a kid. It's interesting what we remember as kids, and I remember Santa left me a present at the end of my bed every single Christmas, and I never once caught him putting it there. Clever Santa. Then of course when I had my daughter, Santa did the same thing. So there you go, 2 presents for 2 very special kids, and the fun will last for weeks. The last thing I wanted to show you was a project that I'm already part of the way through. The concept came from these little miniature birdhouses that I featured a couple of weeks ago in my video, and each of these are on skewers that you put in your plant pots. And I thought, I had this little cork pinboard. I salvaged this and it's in a little A4 frame, and I quite often see these at the op shops. What I used to create this little bird's house village was some faux greenery. I've just pulled that straight off and trimmed it down to size, and I'm just going to use a little dab of hot glue and place that strategically where I want it to be, either below or above each of these little birds' houses. I've used another type of greenery that you buy from the dollar shop. I got this one from a thrift store, and this pulls off easily as well, so I'm just doing the same thing with this greenery, and I'm mixing it up all over my project so that it has a real garden feel about it. I've made roofs on some of them, and they're made from poppy seeds and pine cones, and I'm adding a little bit of natural lichen from my garden just to give a different colour green. I also used a skewer stick to create little perches outside some of the bird's house doors. I absolutely love the way that this turned out, and I think if you found one of those really large cork pinboards, it could be an epic centerpiece for one of your larger walls in your home. Naturally, this would look awesome outside as well, but I would put it in a patio or a porch or under the eaves so it's not exposed to the direct weather. So those were the projects I was inspired to do this week. I hope you enjoyed them. Thank you so much for watching, and if you're a regular, you know how much I appreciate you and love hearing from you. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Bye for now.